Leadership in a secret vote, and the conservative congresswoman is warning her party will be going down by picking Trump's lies over the Constitution itself.
We cannot both embrace the big lie and embrace the Constitution. I will do everything I can to ensure that the former president never again gets anywhere near the Oval Office. We cannot be dragged backward by the very dangerous lies of a former president. Thank you.
This vote marks an inflection point for this post-Trump era that we're all living through together. What began last November, when voters soundly rejected Donald Trump, and what boiled over on January 6th, when his supporters waged a violent but futile insurrection to try to end our democracy, has now, I can report for you today, landed on May 12th with a new standard for House Republican leadership in the United States of America. It's important that we all understand this. They now have officially a zero-tolerance policy for leaders who accurately rebut Donald Trump's election lies. This is no small matter for an opposition party. This is not just one more exaggeration or one more lie or one more piece of Trump theater. Even for critics of this Republican Party, today is actually different and worse than how it's been. This isn't how it's been even all this year. In January, some Republican leaders joined Cheney in criticizing the insurrection and Donald Trump directly, when apparently they thought that's where our politics were headed. And I want you to remember this. As recently as February, the GOP voted to keep Cheney as part of leadership. We have the receipts for you. It was just 3 months ago. It was aimed as a compromise. Trump loyalists were still in charge in the House. But there was room, they said, for one voice like Cheney in leadership. And 70% of House Republicans backed that in a recorded vote, which means many of them, by definition, are reversing themselves in this vote today. Because apparently that very minor compromise couldn't hold. And not only that, unlike the last vote, which we can measure, that's why you see the chart on your screen of most Republicans in the House backing it, today's vote was a fully secret voice vote, which is an obvious sign of political weakness, all to appease one blogger in Florida. And individual Republicans, they didn't want to put their names on reversing their position and ousting and purging Cheney. They don't want to actually tell us how many of them want to basically ensure the party is this narrow. And how bad is it for them? Well, everyone knows this is about Cheney standing up to Trump on one topic that he lost. Nobody thinks this is about the size of government or state healthcare subsidies. Nobody at either party thinks that. I know there's a lot of lying going on, but everyone understands what this fight was about and what this vote today means. And yet it's so bad that rather than admit that or even take a victory lap and say, yo, that's what it's about, I sided with Trump, it's bad enough for the party as it also eyes general elections with all the voters, not just Republican primary voters, that Cheney's former leadership colleague, Kevin McCarthy, has to go out and say foolish, ridiculous claims full of clownery that nobody believes, as he denies that today.
I don't think anybody is questioning the legitimacy of the presidential election. I think that is all over with.
Is that all over with? That's literally what today's vote was about. It's not over with. It's renewed and more of a fight right now than it was before. And as further evidence that it's all about that and not something else, Cheney's likely replacement is a person who happens to be a less conservative member of the Republican caucus, Elise Stefanik, but she backs the big lie. That is the litmus test. And that's apparently more important to the party than policy or Republican voters' priorities. Cheney voting with Trump 92% of the time, which is more than her rival there for this post, this new vacancy. It was never about taxes or the wall or coal miners or what the Republican Party did when it had actual power over those past 4 years. No. Today is important and will actually be marked in the history books as a measurable turning point for this troubled party. Because it wasn't about those things. It's about the Florida blogger. It's about his ego, his need to dominate even out of office, and the deceitful vanity of getting millions and millions of people to pretend you won because you can't handle being the loser of the 2020 race. Because that's what you are, whether you have a new blog or not. Now, if it all sounds a little pathetic, it is. But I want to tell you tonight, it is much more than that. Because when democracies lose any grip on the ability to hold peaceful transfers of power and any commonality across the spectrum of ideology and beliefs, we should debate and have different ideologies and beliefs. That's democracy. But when we lose the ability to respect the outcome of elections, which by definition always means respecting some results that some people hoped would go the other way, if we lose that, then I promise you, democracy itself remains in danger tonight, which is a point Cheney has been urging her colleagues to take seriously.
I will not sit back and watch in silence while others lead our party down a path that abandons the rule of law and joins the former president's crusade to undermine our democracy. Somebody who has provoked an attack on the United States Capitol to prevent the counting of electoral votes. I don't believe that he should be playing a role in the future of the party or the country.
There's no question that the president formed the mob, the president incited the mob, the president addressed the mob, he lit the flame.